So Donald Trump got some awful news that two of his top employees have been given immunity to testify against him, his family, his kids, and the Trump Corporation. This is absolutely devastating. We've talked a little bit about this. We talked about how Matthew Calamari Sr., Trump executive and former bodyguard of Trump, and Matthew Calamari Jr., current director of security for Trump, and Matthew Calamari's son, were both implicated in the very same thing that Alan Weitzelberg, the CFO, has been charged with, which was getting all these executive perks like cars and apartments and tuition and not claiming it as income. And that there were also people at the company like Jeff McConney, the controller, who have been willing to testify. And so it was released yesterday night that McConney is back to testify some more with immunity, and Matthew Calamari Jr., the head of security at the Trump Organization, will be testifying and getting immunity against Donald Trump. And so this is bad because you have one of the chief money men at the company and the director of security, both of whom were potentially implicated in this sort of scheme, which was to systematically avoid taxes on executive perks, getting immunity to spill the dirt, which means they know something. The police, the DAs, the prosecutors, they're not going to give this immunity unless the people that are involved have dirt on bigger fish or can shed light on the corporate culture. That Matthew Calamari Jr., he's a relatively small fish, knows enough to say, okay, here's what I did. I admit that I actually systematically evaded taxes illegally, and I know, however, that Ivanka and Don Jr. and Eric and Weitzelberg and Trump himself and countless other executives did the same, and it was encouraged by the company. If he says something like that, he is incredibly valuable. He protects himself and his family, and he gives the prosecutors greater credence to go at Trump, including potential charges that lead to Trump's organization being charged as a criminal organization, basically treating Trump like a mafia don more than a CEO. And I want to read you just the opinion of a lawyer because it's actually quite crucial. It says here, breaking, Trump Organization controller Jeff McConney is returning to testify to the grand jury a second time. This is not good news for Trump. It means McConney has a lot to say. Along with the Calamari news, it also means the walls are closing in on Alan Weitzelberg. And that's big as well, because remember, Alan Weitzelberg was the first and so far only person charged in this Trump Organization crime ring. And so he has always been on the precipice of flipping against Trump. Does he flip? Because if he did, he would certainly get immunity because he knows everything. And he hasn't thus far. And one of the worries you have to have if you're Weitzelberg and his family and his lawyer is that you're at the point now where your loyalty to Trump is going to get punished. Because certainly Donald Trump might betray you. That's almost something you have to consider. But beyond that, if you're getting all the information from McConney and Calamari and who knows who else, you might not be necessary anymore and you won't get a deal. This is awful for Weitzelberg and it's awful for Trump. If you're looking for the next step to where Trump and his company end up with criminal charges, this is it. Bad news for everybody.